The big myths out there is the natural-born salesperson, and that is the biggest bunch of garbage I have ever heard. All right?
Welcome, everybody, to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast, America's #1 podcast for new real estate investors, where we know that finding discounted properties is the most proven path to financial freedom. I am your host, Brent Daniels, and I am telling you guys this from the bottom of my heart. If I can do this business, so can you. So let's get started. We are back again with the man, the myth, the legend, Todd Toback. Todd, say hello to everybody.
Man, Brent, happy to be here. Really, really excited to spit some fire here. And if you are listening to this podcast, I tell you what, fasten your seatbelts, because we're going to give you something today that's going to show you how to make your first 5-figure paycheck or your next 5-figure paycheck. So I'm really excited, Brent. Thanks for the intro. Let's rock.
But it starts with the seed of what this whole podcast, what this whole video is about. Guys, if you're listening to this, you want to see this, go to Brent Daniels' YouTube channel so that you could put a face with a voice. But the seed of this conversation came from Todd and I asking the question, why are people so afraid to talk to homeowners? Right? That's really what it came from, Todd. That's what we really wanted to break down. Not only that, how to overcome it, how to get your mindset strong, but also how to, there's a couple little nagging issues that I see come up time and time again as people are starting out in this business, or maybe they got a first few deals were kind of lay downs and now they're having some challenges. We're going to really break that down as well. So let's start with it right off the bat. I mean, I get this question all the time, Todd, or not even the question. It's a mindset thing. Brent, I don't know what's going on. I'm afraid of the phone. I don't want to pick it up. I don't want to do my lead follow-up. I don't want to do my cold calling. Like, help me. Right.
Right.
And then, this is something that I felt with, back in 2013 when I was starting to do this, and I really had to get out of my comfort zone. I had to force myself because I was completely broke that I had to do something, but it was still, even though I was at like the bottom level, like I was at rock bottom, it still crept into my head that, oh my gosh, I am afraid to talk to homeowners. What do you think it is, Todd?
Well, Brent, it's really funny that you mentioned this because some people, when they first get started out, right, if they're totally broken, they have no other option, they're not in their own head, right? And so they're like, I'm going to get on the phone right now or I'm going to starve. So you don't have time to think, right? And so that actually can be an advantage. So if you're broke right now, hey, you don't have the luxury of saying, hey, I'm in my own head. Now, if you're like most people, like me, I was not like living in my car, but I really wanted to change. And so just like you, if you're listening to this podcast, I was deathly afraid. I remember meeting with that first seller in person, and even on the phone, right? My hands were shaking, my heart was racing, and meeting with them in person, I was like, this person's going to totally think I'm an imposter, right? They're going to know that I don't have any money and that I can't get a bank loan, and that I'm going to try to rip them off. I remember thinking, like, do they know that I'm going to be making a profit? What do I have to say? Should I tell them I'm going to be living in the house? That's a good one, by the way. That's one that a lot of people do. They default to like almost acting like they're a homeowner, right? And so I want to let you know that if you're new, this is completely natural, right? To feel this way, right? You're listening to the podcast and you're juiced and you get all this information, you're ready to go and you're ready to pick up that phone, and all of a sudden your heart drops. Yeah. So number one, know that it's natural. Okay, but the second thing that you have to know is that it's not your fault, right? There's nothing that is wrong with you. You're not a complete introvert, right? You're not so shy, right? It's just that you do not have the confidence and the skill yet, okay? One of the big myths out there is the natural-born salesperson, and that is the biggest bunch of garbage I have ever heard, all right? Because if you tell yourself that, and if you're not a quote-unquote self-defined natural-born salesperson, you're not going to get on the phone, and you're always going to be making excuses. And I want to let you know that if you after listening to this podcast, okay, you're going to have some tools to go out there and talk to sellers, right? And so I think part of that is, number one, a lack of real hunger, but number two, lack of education of what actually takes to make that happen, right? I think there are three main reasons why people are scared. And we're going to talk about that today, Brent.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned the natural-born sales guy or the natural-born closer. It's like every time that I run into somebody that's like a self-proclaimed natural at sales and everything is always asking me for a job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, honestly.
Yes.
Like they're asking me for a job because they just haven't put it all together. It's not the truth, guys. I'm telling you, there is steps to this game. There are levels to this business. And the more that you can educate, not even educate, well, education's important about, but that comes from really the action and the results that you're taking, but more the instruction that you're given. If you're given the right instruction from the beginning or, whenever, as long as it hits you and you're taking action on it, it really, really, really is going to help set you apart and really help you to be confident when you go into these situations. Cause it's scary. You know what I mean? When you're starting out and you're going to strangers' houses and these houses, somebody smoked 100,000 cigarettes in them, or they've got tons of animals, or the landscaping is all crazy, or just whatever the distressed property is, or you just walk into a ball of emotions. That's the bigger one. Mm-hmm. It's not even their house. It's not the condition of the house. It's that we're working with the property owner and working through all this web of emotions that they have tied with the property, with their own lives, with decision making, and it really helps to be able to ask the right questions, but also be a really, really, really good listener and really be in that moment. I think that's the problem, Todd, is I think we all put together a game plan of what we're going to do and say based on our previous conversations, and we know how we're going to close them, and then all of a sudden a monkey wrench gets thrown in, and then all of a sudden it's just, we're thrown off.
Mm-hmm. And not to steal some of the thunder, right, from the podcast today, but really the less talking you do, the better, right? The less closing that you do, the better. And so if you don't know what to say, well, the best thing is say nothing at all. And we'll talk more about this later in the podcast. And so again, if you have fear, we're going to show you how to get past it today. So Brent, let's jump on to the three reasons, or the three areas where people are scared and have fear, because we have to define our fears, right? Name your fear, you must, right? Like Yoda says, right? To conquer it, what is it in terms of the Yoda? If you will conquer it, right? And so we're going to name those three. So number one is the imposter syndrome, right? Where we first start out and you're thinking, hey, is the seller going to know that, I have no money in the bank, or that I've never done a deal before, or that I just opened up this business, or that I don't know what I'm doing, right? That's a big one, right? Many people feel that way and they have a complex around that. And, I have found, right, in the past that the seller, right, is not thinking any of that. A true motivated seller is not thinking how many houses you've done. They're not thinking about what degrees you have, or if you have a license, or if you have a big office building or a ton of employees, or if you're making the calls out of your mama's basement, right? There's nothing wrong with doing that. They don't care, right? All they want is for you to solve their problem. Mm-hmm. And so the sooner you can let that go, right? The sooner that you can go and get past that fear and pick up the phone and make that happen.
Oh, absolutely. And I think sometimes I remember starting out, Todd, what I would do, and I came from a real estate agent background, but I would copy a check of the earnest money. I would put together all my proof of funds letters from all the hard money lenders. I'd have a 9-page contract. And you know what it did more often than not? It confused the hell out of the seller. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know if this copy of a check was supposed to go to the title company, or if they were getting it, or why is it a copy? What is proof of funds? What is these things? Like, I thought you were just going to buy the house. And it actually did a lot. Did a lot more damage. And I just did that because I wasn't confident, because I was thinking, if I have all this evidence showing that I can make this transaction happen, that's what this seller is really going to want. But it truly wasn't.
Funny, Brent, because we have a list of 3 things that Brent and I talked about before jumping on the podcast. But there's one thing we didn't talk about. And one thing that can throw you off is just getting started in this business and a new person running into a real estate agent, right? And so many times a real estate agent, right, is going to throw all this stuff in your head. You need the 15-page contract. You've got to have this this special license. You've got to go to real estate school, right? You've got to have this big office and 20 years in business and, do all these disclosures, right? Obviously, you want to check with your attorney to make sure what's legal in your state. But sometimes a well-meaning real estate agent will throw a wrench, right? And it could be a family friend. It could be a friend of a friend. It could be someone you were cold calling. And man, when you're new, a real estate agent who's from another planet, who doesn't believe that you can make a 30 or a 40 or a $50,000 check, right? Or even 10 on your first shot without this, right? Can crush your dreams and make you feel like an imposter. So what I would just say, one tip is tune out the noise.
Yep.
Tune out the noise, right? Laser focus of what you're hearing here on the Wholesaling Inc. podcast, and really, really, really focus, okay, on one thing, and that is getting on the phone with sellers, asking for the best price possible, and then selling it, turn around and selling it for a maximum profit. Second part, let's talk a little.
Let me ask you this, Todd. This is something that I don't even, I mean, we've known each other for a long time, but I don't even know if I remember this. When you started wholesaling, was there somebody in your market that helped you do it, or did you just go through it and go through it and go through it? You know what I mean? Like somebody that would walk you through, maybe split some deals with them off the bat, or did you just go right through it?
No, so I started, I did my first deal from a book, right? And I had no idea what I was doing. And so I went out there and made that happen. And then I started doing lease options. And so I was listening to Peter Conti and David Finkel. They had a training program, very much like the same one actually that Wholesaling Inc. has. And I was in that program learning lease options. But then here's the crazy thing. I started buying deals to keep after the recession, right? And after that, I saw that this wholesaler was wholesaling me deals. And I saw he was making 15, 20, 25 K a pop. And then all of a sudden I was watching him like, what the heck? I need to start doing more of these. And so in a way, it was funny because I was kind of like mentoring this young kid. But I saw the fact that he was doing large checks over and over and over and over again by just doing one thing and really, really simplifying it, kind of like you do, Brent, would talk to people. And so
yep.
It's funny how sometimes the teacher learns more than the student, right, at that point. So that was my conversion.
I see a lot of that, Todd. I see a lot of people partnering up in town with other people. We call it squatting up, and I think that that's really important. But I think at some point you have to be able to build these skills. You need to be able to take the experience so that you don't feel ever like you're an imposter, right? Because that really slows a lot of people down. A lot of people say, well, I just can't. That was my biggest problem starting out, was just, oh my gosh, I don't have the money to buy these properties. What am I going to do? I better partner with somebody that does have the money so I feel confident.
Right.
But you can literally start building your confidence by what we're going to talk about next.
The second part is the internal game, right?
That's it. Yep.
And we talked a whole video on this we got a lot of great feedback on this video. So if you want to find it on the YouTube channel, or you want to find it on the Wholesaling podcast, go listen to that. But we talked a lot about the internal game of what you think that you deserve. And so this is one of the things, I'll briefly touch on this, is that you must talk to yourself. Rich people, okay, talk to themselves. Poor people listen to themselves, right? I was working out with my son this morning, and he was fading during our workout, right? And I kept on saying, I said, talk to yourself. He's like, I'm tired. I said, stop listening to yourself. Talk to yourself. Talk to yourself. Talk to yourself. And I'm telling you, this kid banged out, right, 3 times as many burpees after he said he couldn't go anymore, right? And so I really want to talk about a little bit about what we expect of ourselves. So if you expect to go in there and make $5,000, guess what? That's what you're going to get. If you don't think that you deserve to turn around, lock up this property, and sell it for $25,000, you're not going to do that. And the seller's going to feel that. Your voice is going to crack. You're going to hesitate. You're going to have a lack of, your voice is not going to have the sincerity and the power, right, that the seller needs to hear. And I can tell you, most sellers, what they need from you is certainty, right? It's not about the price, or they would have listed with a real estate agent, right? Not about the price. And so when they're talking about speed, convenience, and trust, you must offer certainty and convince yourself that you are going to do that. I cannot overemphasize that enough. So how do you do that? Well, by talking to yourself.
I love it.
If you got to say affirmations. So one of my clients that I talked to, I said, look, his deal size was around like $8,000 or $9,000, right? I said, look, I make at least $25,000 a deal, right? For me, I tell our team it's 6 figures, right? Sometimes they fall way short of that, right? But that number, there's this a pressure that when you say it, right, you are constantly thinking about it. And if you're below that, you start to get dragged up to that, right? I offer value. I know what to say, right? And so, I practice my craft. And so as you say these things, your behavior becomes congruent. So a lot of people think, oh, I'm not into that hocus pocus juju stuff. Well, of course, that's not real. Just saying it does nothing. But when you say it, you think about it. And then what you think about it, then your behaviors become congruent.
I love it. 100%. What do you say? The perfect quote: rich people talk to themselves, poor people listen to themselves.
Yes.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So what about when people are asked, well, how there's a couple real big stumbling blocks that I see with new students coming into the TTP family is, well, they asked me how long I've been in business, right?
Right.
They asked me how long they've been in business, or they asked me for a proof of funds. Like, what is that? How do I do that? What's going on here? And I love it because we talked about this. I love your response to this. Go ahead.
Well, there's first things, by the way. So all these objections that we talk about, by the way, we do a heavy training. And Brent, we talked about this. If you go to convertwholesaledeals.com, right, there you can buy the no limit selling system. And it's got all of this internal game stuff, all of these objections, all of the way that you can actually talk to yourself there. Convertwholesaledeals.com. If you look below, there's actually a link in the description. But we talked about basically the top 3 objections that people get on when they talk to a seller, right? Number 1, how long have you been in business?
Yep.
Right? And I tell you what, a lot of people get thrown off on that one, right? And I get it, right? It's like, oh, I've been in business for a month, but my partner has been in business, for 10 years, right? That stinks, right? I mean, you're going to get killed. If you hesitate on that one, or try to make an excuse, or try to skirt or lie, the seller's going to sense it. Okay, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, and the answer that we talked about, right? The other part about this is how many properties have you bought, right? And these all fall in the same category. Or 3, can I see a proof of funds?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, those are scary. Ooh, oh my gosh. Those are the big 3, right? Let me tell you, I'm going to take all the pressure off of you right now listening to this. Brent and I are going to give you a solution to handle this objection, but I have bought and sold well over 1,000 deals.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that in no time where a seller asked me one of those 3, have I bought a house?
Yep. No, it's like clockwork. I mean, when people are asking those questions and really diving deep, the likelihood that they're going to get multiple offers and get a bid up or list with a real estate agent or end up not selling it at all is so high. I am telling you, the people that are the most just desperate to get property, this is such an issue. This is such a problem. They're not going through all of these things. Listen, they're not going to seminars. There's no podcast for sellers on what to ask wholesalers or real estate investors to make sure that they get, all the information that they need to make a decision. It just doesn't happen. It's real simple, guys. Todd's been talking about it the whole time. It's people will trade equity in their property for speed and convenience. It's that simple. So when you're getting a lot of those questions, I see it all the time coming. They ask me for proof of funds. They ask me how long I've been in business. They ask me how many properties I've bought. And I'm like, did you get a price out of them? No, I haven't got a price out of them yet. Okay. Almost every single time, they're not going to give you a price. Almost every single time, they're going to say, I want to know what you're going to offer me. Almost every single time, they're going to stiff arm you and build up a force field around them that is going to prevent them from making any decision or doing business with you. So when you get those 3 objections, listen, it's just another way to understand that you are filtering out the people that are truly motivated versus the people that are tire kickers. It truly is. Now, listen. The problem with this, Todd, is every so often somebody gets a deal from, putting in their proof of funds or talking about their background or talking about how big they are and that type of thing. And it throws everything off, right? But it's not a consistency in your business.
And I guarantee you it was probably, a $6,000 deal or a $7,000 deal. And look, believe me, if you do your first deal and it's $6,000 or $7,000, I want to celebrate you, right? Yep. I want to celebrate you. But really, and I've been on the channel for a long time, Brent. I love being here, but I've always talked about doing big deals, right? Yep. The people who have 6 figures in the bank are the ones who do bigger deals, right? Yep. It's the time return on your money. And so actually we have talked about this, Brent, actually, in the terms of being able to filter deals, right? Part of the skill is being able to separate the contenders from the pretenders, right? And so pretenders pretend like they're going to sell the property to you by saying, how long have you been in business? How many properties have you bought? Set me proof of funds, or I've got 7 other offers, right? What can you give me? How do I handle the I've got 7 other offers objection? I'll tell you how I handle it. Click. Right?
Yep.
Right? In a much more tactful way, right? We will ask questions to make sure that is true, right? But if I'm dealing with 7 other offers, I can't really offer that much value.
Nope. No, they're going to get their problem solved by somebody else. And most of the time, their problem in that situation is they want to get the most money. Yeah. And I get it. I totally get it. They want to buy a bigger house. They want to downsize. They want to move across country. They got, transferred somewhere else. Great. Let somebody else that's going to buy it and keep it and hold it and do it and whatever. Let's go find somebody that has the opportunity to where we can really help them out because they're going through a big time problem that they're not going to solve themselves.
Right.
Yep.
So let me go over this and how to handle any objections. So we did promise we would handle this, right? Yep. And so one of the things people say, look, how do I handle an objection? I'm going to give you a little bit of catch-all, right? If you want to go in detail, remember that website is convertwholesaledeals.com where we go into training, right? But today, if you get caught on an objection, this is like one thing that you can do right now where you said, you know what, Todd and Brent, man, just by this podcast episode, right, you changed my whole perspective, okay? If someone asks you that you don't, if someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, right, number 1, say nothing. Number 2, redirect with another question. Or 3, say, I don't know. Right?
So let me give you a question, and then you can kind of we can kind of play this, right? Todd, how much business does your company do in a year?
I'm sorry. What do you mean?
Well, how much profit do you guys make in a year? Do you guys buy a lot of houses? Are you selling a lot of houses? Like, give it to me real.
Well, that's a really, really odd question, Brent. Do you mind if I ask why you are asking me this question?
Well, I just want to make sure that I'm doing business with a good business person.
And how would you define that?
Well, somebody that does a lot of business would be good. Somebody that I know will get the deal closed. That's what I'm looking for.
What if I told you I did 1 million deals?
Well, that would be pretty good.
Okay. What if I told you I did no deals?
Well, then I'd be concerned that we wouldn't be able to do business.
Brett, let me ask you this, okay? And I'm going to write this down. Is the number of deals that I do really the determining factor of us doing business, or are there other things that we need to talk about?
Well, we need to get the price right. We need to get the closing time right. I need some time to be able to get everything out of here. So those are important.
All right. Well, let's start there.
I love it. Right.
Boom. Right. Yeah. Now the other part.
And by the way, I'm talking to you like that. You know, if I was that seller, you're not getting that deal. Oh, there's no deal there.
There's no way I'm getting that deal. No. I mean, we're just humoring the crowd here. Okay. Right. Saying, how would I handle this? Like, people are like, oh, I can't wait to hear Todd and Brent, the ninjas, close this deal, right? I'm like, I can't close that deal. I can't offer any value.
No.
I think the better thing is we know where to spend our time.
Right.
Right? We know where to spend our time. And by asking the questions, it just gives us a better idea of where to do that.
Right.
And by asking the questions, it gives you more confidence to make more calls.
Yep.
It also gives you the confidence, though, to get off the phone with someone whom you know that you're not doing business with. And that's the biggest thing. This is not really external. It's mostly internal.
Yep.
Right? And so if you're like, you know what? I know that I'm going to make 60 calls a day. And if I make 60 calls a day, I know that 59 of those people are not going to be motivated. Brent and I did a live event, and he's making cold calls live. All right. And by the way, we're sitting there for what? A good hour before Brent got any traction. I mean, he's just sitting there, hang up, not motivated. You know, and if you were a newbie, you'd be like, oh, this is kind of awkward. Right. And then all of a sudden, boom, it works this way. Like call 60, we got a lead. Right.
Yep.
And it was awesome. Right.
Yep.
But you can see Brent he just wasn't fazed by all the unmotivation. Right. He just keeps going, and he doesn't get jammed up. So that goes back to the internal game and knowing if you're getting these questions, right, they're probably not that motivated. Now, if you're dealing with a real estate agent and you're buying a property from an agent, that's a different game, different thing. You know, if they ask for a proof of funds, right,
Sure.
or how many properties, you may have to dance around that or get a partner and totally overcoming that, right? But when you're dealing with sellers, no, there are some red flag questions, and those are like the top 3.
Yep. Yeah. And I think, you know, working with real estate agents, if they're asking that, a lot of the times it's because their brokerage requires that they include that with their paperwork before they can even get paid on anything. It's not that they really, really are like trying to vet you. It's that they're required to have that paperwork. And that's, you know, if you run into a situation like that, then just go talk. We did, for example, Todd, we just sent and got a contract signed this morning. And the real estate agent took our 2-page contract. Now, I assume later down the line, we're going to have to revise it into the 9-page, but they just didn't care. They just put it to their seller. The seller was fine with the price and terms and everything. They were fine with it. We made sure that we put in the commission, the paperwork for their commission. They were happy. Now it's an escrow, and now we start rocking and rolling. If we need to make some changes later, we can make some changes later. But for the most part, real estate agents are just trying to dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure that their broker is happy with their paperwork. And it's really that personal relationship that you have with them, their ability to understand if you're confident and you're certain. And that's where they're going to be more, that's what they're really focusing on is, does this person sound like they can actually get this deal closed?
Right.
And that's something that you got to work on. And that goes back to what Todd was saying is start listening. I mean, start talking to yourself and stop listening to yourself. If you're telling yourself all the time that you are the absolute best at speaking with real estate agents, guess what? You become unbelievably good at speaking with real estate agents, right?
Or homeowners,
or home, of course. Yeah, I mean, it works for both of it, but it's that constant dialogue that you're talking to yourself, and you're getting those. I guess it would be considered an affirmation, but I think it goes even further than that. I think it's really just setting yourself up to be okay, to be successful. I think that's one of the hardest parts, Todd, is people are more afraid of when people say yes to them than they are by rejection, because yes means that they have to then go forward and really put in the work and really get the job done and really get this. And then all of a sudden it gets scary because this business becomes real. And once it becomes real, now you have a responsibility to take this as far as you can for your family, for your financial future, for sourcing real estate opportunities. And when you have that piled on you, all of a sudden that could be pressure, but that pressure can be really, really, really exciting. And that pressure can actually give you energy as opposed to drain you. It could change your life. It's changed Todd's life. It's changed my life. It's changed your brother Tom's. It's changed Dan's. It's changed, I mean, countless others around the country. This business is so unbelievably rewarding if you let that happen.
Right. So we promised people that we were going to help them destroy fear, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about affirmations. We're going to give them 2 more ways. Okay. And so the second way that we're going to talk about, Brent, is just moving one step at a time, making sure that you talked about like that one thing about that next thing happens if the seller says yes. And believe me, we're all there. And you're like, oh my gosh, do I get the paperwork right? And then where do I go to escrow? And what if I can't find a buyer? And what's going to happen? Right? So here's my recommendation to you that will give you more confidence. Just commit to take the very next step. And so whatever that is, you're like, okay, today I'm going to get on the phone and I'm going to practice these 20 objections, right? And on this channel, Brent and I have done a ton of videos, right?
Ton of videos.
I don't know, 5 or 6. So you can learn some of these objections. So I'm going to practice those before I get on the phone. Then I'm going to say my affirmations. And then 3, I'm going to make 40 calls today. And if I make 40 calls and if I find a motivated seller, then and only then am I going to get on a contract. And that's all I'm going to worry about today. I'm not going to worry about if I have a buyer. I'm not going to worry about getting it to the escrow company. I'm not going to worry about how the paperwork works. I'm just going to do that. And if you commit to that and you win, your confidence starts to go up.
Love it. Love it. That's number 2. Number 3?
Okay, number 3, okay, is to build your skill. Okay, and so if you're a football player or a basketball player or a runner or a weightlifter, you get confidence by practicing.
Yep.
Right? By practicing. So this is the part where the natural-born salesperson is complete garbage, right? As a matter of fact, most of the natural-born salespeople have really bad habits, right? And so it's harder for them to unlearn. So if you're actually not naturally born, right, you think, hey, I'm not that good. You actually have an advantage because you know you need to practice, right? So get out there and make it happen. You know, there's some free sources out there, but of course, if you go to convertwholesaledeals.com, you buy that program. Let me tell you something. Brian, who's my acquisition specialist, I've been working with him for years, on and off. He is amazing, but I can tell you when he started, he couldn't get 2 words out of his mouth. The first 6 weeks, I'm like, this guy is not going to make it. Not going to happen, right?
Yep.
And then finally, I had a coach tell me, Todd, you've got to get what's out of your head and on a paper, and then train him, and then build his confidence, and he will be a huge asset for you, with you, right? I can tell you that Brian and I have made millions of dollars together using that system, right? But it was practice. It was role play. It was finding the people who knew what they were talking about, right? And listening to them. So again, there's some free videos on this site, right? If you want to take the shortcut, you can go to convertwholesaledeals.com. But whatever it is, if you decide not to do any of that, get out there, listen to the videos, say your affirmations, make the calls. If you're dealing with unmotivated people and you're scared of those objections, they're probably a waste of your time.
Yep.
Spend time with the people who have the motivation and then use the skills that we talked about here, right, to then close the deal one step at a time. And that will give you confidence.
Love it. Love it. 1, 2, 3. That is it. I love it. And listen, I mean, this is, I have it written here on this little note here that is about, it is all of this comes down to fixing your mindset, right? Fixing your mindset. That's what this whole podcast was about. That's what this whole video was about. Again, if you're just listening to this, check it out at Brent Daniels Real Estate on YouTube. But it's about fixing your mindset and getting into that, into the position of understanding that, one, it's okay to get really big, massive deals in this business. Okay. Number 2, it's okay that if somebody is asking you all of these pre-qualifying questions and they're really grinding you and they want you to compete and they want you to prove to them that you are the best person to buy their house, it's likely that they are not going to do business with you at a price that you want to do business with. It's just a fact. So filter them out. There's plenty of people. 6 to 10% of the market is in distress. It is a conveyor belt out there. There is too many properties. If you drive around in your city, in your state, and there is literally no houses that have any problems, call me. Text me. Let me know. But I'm telling you, there's always going to be ugly houses on the street. There's always going to be emotional problems. There's always going to be life events that are happening. And there is an unlimited supply of opportunities out there that you don't have to just force this. The problem I see, Todd, is we do a little bit of work. We do a little bit of marketing or a little bit of prospecting we get leads, and we want to hold to those leads with everything that we have, because if we don't have those leads, we don't. But leads don't mean anything. Only signed contract and converting them means anything. So start filtering out the people that'll never do business with you. I am telling you, it'll change the landscape and change the success like that. Todd's just giving you the game plan to be able to. Fantastic. I love it.
Thanks so much, Brent. Love being here. Let's do it again.
All right, guys. And again, listen, if you're interested in learning and really deep diving, it's convertwholesaledeals.com. Convert Wholesale Deals. Definitely check it out. The cost is absolutely silly for what the value is that you get in return. That has gone through the sales system that Todd put together through Convert Wholesale Deals has increased their business. I am telling you, it is absolutely phenomenal. Definitely check that out. And until next time, guys, you know me. I am Mr. TTP. I am going to always encourage you to talk to people. Until next time, guys. Love you. See ya.